Hello, everyone, and welcome. Happy Trans Awareness Week. My name is Aiden Dowling. My pronouns are he, him, and I am one of the co-founders of Point of Pride, as well as your host today. We are so glad you're here. This is an especially exciting time for us here at Point of Pride as we prepare to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. And what better way than coming together in community all week long for Trans Awareness Week? Before we get started, I do have two quick announcements and then one kind of participation agreement. So the first announcement, I'm going to drop some links into the chat right now. So the first announcement is that our trans health survey is closing tonight at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you want to be part of this historic project, you can visit transhealthsurvey.org and add your voice to our over 4,000 trans and gender diverse participants advocating for better healthcare. It only takes 25 minutes. Also, our trans surgery fund is open. And if you or someone you know needs help accessing surgery, visit Point of Pride or you can use the link in the chat to apply. Also, a quick little agreement for participation. We're going to keep this space respectful and affirming for one another and for our host. We're going to use the chat to share thoughts or encouragement during the session. And if you have any questions for Grayson, you can drop them in the Q&A. Jack is here, myself are here. We're going to keep an eye on that chat in case anyone needs support. And also we want to thank our ASL interpreters that will be joining us throughout our event tonight, helping access, spread our word across all different types of accessibility. So all in all, tonight's webinar is Building Confidence Through Fitness, a Transmasculine Approach hosted by Grayson. Grayson is a trans personal trainer and founder of Masculinity Made Coaching. Grayson will share how fitness can be a tool for confidence, identity, and self-empowerment. Grayson, why don't you come on up and say hello?
What is up, everybody? Super excited for today. Thank you, Aiden, for the introduction and the opportunity. Super excited to get this started.
Awesome. Well, all in all, this is your show. Take it away. I'm gonna go off camera and I will be in the background if you need any help.
Awesome. Let's do it. Well, with that being said, before I kind of dive into everything, definitely, guys, make sure to check out the links that Aiden put in the chat. Really important stuff Point of Pride is doing, and this is just really important for us to immerse ourselves in the community, especially right now. So, super excited to dive into this. This is my bread and butter in terms of fitness as gender affirming care. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can dive in. Awesome. Perfect. So what I want to do here is I want to utilize the chat as much as we can. I'm very big on community connection and making sure we can all feel a sense of understanding in a way throughout this process, throughout this experience. So I'll pause briefly throughout this for you guys to reflect on some of the prompts that I'll kind of bring up throughout this presentation. What I will say is this is not the typical presentation that you may be expecting from me. So I'm really excited to do a little shift in perspective and reframe and add a little bit more in the mindset side of things as fitness as a form of gender affirming care. So I'm super, super excited to dive into this today with you all. The chat is open. My amazing co-founder and COO of a few companies, Jack, is going to be here. He is an amazing personal trainer. He helped me out with some of this slideshow as well. Very knowledgeable, very well versed. So if you guys have any questions throughout this process, Jack and Aiden will be in the comments answering, and we may have some time at the end to answer some as well. So let's dive in. So, what we'll be covering today. So, what I do want to start out with is my story and my background. This is something I am extremely open about and love to share on my social medias and my pages. So, for any of you that are not familiar with me, I would love to walk you through the significance of that to hopefully build some, connection to my personal experience and kind of just open up that door, open up what that looks like for me. Then, here's when we're going to dive into the limiting beliefs side of things. Surrounding fitness, there are so many limiting beliefs that come into play day. And what's important here is not only becoming aware of these limiting beliefs, but also setting positive reframes for them as well. Then what we'll do is we'll move into the importance of your why. Why are you here? Why are you on this call right now? Why is fitness or confidence important to you? And of course, how to find that if you're struggling. Then we can move into building confidence through fitness. This is the real meat and potatoes of it all here, guys. This is building discipline, aligning actions with your values, how to build consistency and what that actually means, because it's not what you think and it's not what you see on social media. And lastly, that results based mindset versus process based mindset as well. So, why this matters? This is not going to be, oh, building a V taper back, cap shoulders, anything along those lines of actual aesthetic based goals. Although I will give you guys resources for that. There's a huge gap in a trans or queer person's fitness journey that my team and I feel is missed. And today's goal is to do just that, to fill that gap. What that means is we're going to prime your mindset and outlook on your transition, your confidence, your fitness or health journey. And at the end of this lesson, I will be giving you guys these tangible resources to get started. So make sure you wait until the end of this because I'm going to be giving out, I think it's 2 videos, 3 PDF guides, and of course, answering any questions that you guys have. So after doing this for years, the one thing I wish I knew before starting my fitness journey was the importance of an individual's mindset going into it. Although it may seem like a very skippable step, I know it was for me when starting in someone's fitness journey, let me tell you this. I have worked with over 1,000 LGBTQ plus individuals from all across the world, all walks of life, all different identities, and almost every single struggle on their confidence and or fitness journey comes down to limiting beliefs. If you're unfamiliar with that term, we're going to dive into it in a second here. This lesson would have saved me literal years of trial and error when starting my own journey. So let me share a little bit about how things went for me starting out so you can have a better understanding of what we'll be discussing today. So, I grew up in a typical family of 4 with an identical twin sister. This was a huge indicator for me at a young age that something was different about me. I mean, you guys can see in this image over here, guess which one is the trans one, right? You know, it is very evident here that there were some differences coming into play here. The feelings that were coming up at this point in my adolescence and my childhood were I felt like an outsider. I felt like my body was a vessel, not a home. And I found it very difficult to get along with girls my age, but at this point, I just assumed I was shy. I didn't connect the dots with my transness until I was an adult, actually. So this took literal years. I remember there were so many, little things in my early years. And if you guys want to share any in the chat as well, I would do little things like I would even press books against my chest to attempt to flatten it while I was a kid. And I would do things like try to join the boys' baseball team and had an all boys friend group, grew up in action sports, things along those lines, things that were very telling. And it was just very evident that there was something unique about me at a young age. So this is kind of where things started. I was not the individual that knew they were trans, at a very young age, but there were signs. So, as I grew into my teenage years, this is kind of where a little pivot came that I think is kind of important to mention here. This is when I started becoming more conscious of, the feelings that were coming up. I was being more conscious of feelings of isolation, dissociation, disconnect, and emptiness. These were the norm for me. I felt like I was putting on a mask at this point. It felt like, I was living a life that wasn't my own. In an attempt to fit in during high school, I hyper feminized myself and I was not ready to dive into my gender journey at this time. And I just did whatever it took to go unnoticed during this period of my life. I didn't want to recognize myself and I didn't want others to. This time can be summed up as honestly just going through the motions, waking up, eating 3 meals a day, going to school, and not doing much else. I didn't feel passion, purpose, self love, excitement, or much joy during these times, regardless of what was happening around me. So, to be completely transparent, these were some of the trickiest years for me because I couldn't put a name to a face, if that makes sense. I didn't really understand what was going on during these times, but I just knew it was something so debilitating. And you'll see shortly how I work through this. That's when COVID comes. During 2020, this is when everything changed. So this is what I like to call my breaking point, for lack of a better word. After the lockdown during COVID, I was left with no distractions. Something that's important to note is in high school, I immersed myself in sports. I was captain of the girls' volleyball team. I was playing, field hockey and things along those lines. So there were during COVID, no school, no friends, no support. And what does that mean? No need for this mask. It was just me, myself, and I in my bedroom. And I've talked to so many trans and queer people that during this time, it was a very pivotal point to express themselves because what was going on in my mind is okay, I'm home alone. I don't need to go to school and be nervous about what other people think about me if I cut my hair short, like you see in this picture, or if I start dressing more masculine. So it was really an exploration period for me. This is when the gears started to turn for me, naturally so. I started trying to explore the feelings I was having rather than suppressing them, and this is when I experienced dysphoria for the first time. However, I felt stuck. I was still in the closet. I was pre-T, pre-top surgery, and had no clue how to fix how I was feeling. Now, I use the word fix because that is literally how I felt. I felt like this feeling and the way I was living needed a fix. That's the only way I could really explain it. Most people stop there and just sit with that feeling. However, I knew I needed to start living my life now. This is when fitness came into play and the real progress started being made. So you can see in this picture here, I'm already presenting more masculine. I have my haircut, my piercings, and there were just things along the lines that made me inherently feel more masculine, but those dots still were not connecting for me. So this is when I had my aha moment. I want to pause here for a second because I'm sure a majority of you are right on the verge of taking this step and having that aha moment. Like I said, I've spoken with thousands of LGBTQ plus individuals, and a majority of my job is getting people to have that click and that aha moment of these two choices. So I felt like I was left with two choices. Choice number one, I ride this out. I deal with the dysphoria, no matter how debilitating it was, and I live in dissociation and that feeling of disconnect. Majority of people think this is their only option. There is this, what I like to call, I don't have a better word for it, waiting period in someone's transition where they realize they're trans, they come to terms with their dysphoria, they're not out of the closet, they're not on T, they're not on top surgery, still living at home, don't have supportive parents, whatever that looks like, and you feel like you just gotta wait for something to happen and something to change. And I didn't want to do that. I was like, there has to be another way. Most people think that you only have option one. You're just riding the roller coaster of life and you got to roll with the punches. But you actually have two options. Your second option is to take action, do something. But the first thing that came to mind, what can I do? I didn't know that. So the question is, what was that action? Of course, you guys know that action was fitness. This is when the gym fell into my lap. During 2020, I know it was like a huge thing to do like those at-home workouts and stuff like that. So it was all over my social media and something that I was seeing a lot and I, kind of fell into my lap. Contrary to popular belief though, the gym was not just about changing my appearance. So it allowed me to feel like I had control over my body, control over my transition. These feelings of hopelessness, despair that I had earlier in these days of dysphoria were now combated with that sense of control. It was an outlet for my emotions, and in turn, that helped my mental health. It allowed me to build trust in myself through building discipline, which we're going to touch on later. And it allowed me to feel like I was actually making progress, making a difference, and taking power over my transition. So this was a huge, huge turning point for me. This was the one thing that I felt like I had, honestly. So here's where I am now. Fast forward a few years later, after countless nights of confusion, frustration, self hatred, going back and forth with myself, questioning myself, and honestly, despair. I finally came to the place where now I have passion. I look in the mirror and I smile. I exude confidence. I have a lust for life that I never thought was possible. And fitness was the catalyst for all of this. Not starting T, not top surgery. Fitness was the first thing that made me feel this way. I now coach LGBTQ plus individuals all around the world to use fitness to give them the same impact on their confidence and transition. And of course, that is the goal today. So at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, Grayson, you just had top surgery, you're on T, you've been in the gym for a while. There's probably a lot of limiting beliefs buzzing around in your head comparing my experience to yours. And that is a completely normal thing to feel and do because I do it all the time too. Comparison is easier said than done to ignore. So I wanted to acknowledge that today. So here are some things that you're probably thinking. I'm not on HRT yet. What's the point? I'll just wait till I start. Please let me know, guys, in the chat if you are feeling any of these things. Which of these are you resonating to? Or is there another one you want to add in? We have another one. I haven't had X, Y, and Z gender affirming surgery, so I won't feel like myself until then, anyways. Again, what's the point? I can barely look at myself in the mirror. How am I supposed to walk into a gym full of mirrors and people judging me? And lastly, I don't even think I could stay consistent enough to see results. I don't have it in me. I'm not that type of person. Things along those lines. What I will say is, I once felt each and every one of those things. So, guys, let me know in the chat who is resonating with any of these limiting beliefs. Acknowledging these limiting beliefs, building awareness for them is so pivotal in creating space and working through them. And that's what we're about to do in a second here. So I'm really glad that you guys are resonating. It seems like in the chat, you guys are saying this is something that you're really resonating with. The last one, the two middle ones, totally get where you guys are coming from with this. And I think that totally makes sense why we're feeling that way. Because like I said, I've once felt all of those things as well. So we're going to kind of try to debunk these. First one, this was the worst one for me. I'm not on HRT yet. What's the point? I'll just wait. The images on this slide are both images of me pre-testosterone. Now, the best decision you can make is starting your fitness journey as soon as possible. There is no point in waiting. The best time is always now. And I know so many people say that. That is such a cliche thing in the fitness industry. Not all cliches are a bad thing, might I add. But here's why it really matters for us, for queer and trans individuals. Starting fitness pre-T allows you to get more comfortable in your routine so that if and or when you do start HRT, the muscle growth is much easier. Working out pre-T is a great way to feel a sense of control, like I was talking about in my personal story, over your dysphoria. At this point in my life, this was literally the only thing I had, and honestly, the only thing that kept me going. It's safe to say that fitness saved my life during this period of time. Working out pre-T is relatively the same as when you are on T, contrary to popular belief. HRT isn't going to magically build muscle. You're not going to wake up with 15-inch biceps and a six pack. I mean, I wish, don't we all? But you still need to put in the work. It's better that you start now so that you already have the foundation built early on. What's important is a lot of the things we're going to be covering today are going to be really telling to that statement. Like I said, guys, I talk to hundreds of clients, a month, thousands a year. And the biggest thing that we see and something that I come by a lot is, okay, I just started T, I'm ready to go, let's do this. And it's like, go, 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 pedal to the metal. We get overwhelmed and, it's hard to stay consistent. So what if we decided to get ahead of the curve? Start now, put in the work. So if and when you do decide to start HRT, you're already in the routine. The only thing that's changing is you're on T. It's not you're on T, you're trying to get your nutrition in check, trying to find all the supplements, all the workout splits. No, that's the importance and significance here is the longer you wait, only thing you're doing is the only thing you're doing realistically speaking is just waiting to step into that ideal sense of self. So I know it can be hard to work out pre-T dysphoric, but it is the best decision and honestly in my personal opinion the most pivotal and crucial time to start. So I honestly completely disagree with this statement and think it is the most important to start working out pre-testosterone. Personal opinion though. So I hope that reframe can help you guys a little bit. Next, we have I haven't had top surgery, so I won't feel like myself until then anyways. I actually had top surgery 7 days ago, so this is a really new thing for me. Fitness and overall health can actually play such a huge role in your top surgery results. You can use fitness to find strength, power, and even a slight bit of euphoria in your chest pre-top surgery. Of course, we can give it that more pec look, and building up muscle pre-top surgery allows for less in dysphoria and better results if you do decide to get top surgery. Building up muscle on your chest is giving your surgeon more of a, it gives it more of a canvas, is kind of what my surgeon actually said to me when I went in for my pre-op visit and post-op visit. He was like, you had a really solid canvas for muscle growth. And you can see here, this is the transformation from January this this year to right before my top surgery, the preparation I did to do that, losing as much body fat as I could so that it was easier for the surgeon and there was less breast tissue to take out, and also just building up that actual pec muscle as well. So trust me, guys, when I look at both of these pictures, I don't feel dysphoria. I feel euphoria. Inherently speaking, yes, I acknowledge that I did have a genetically smaller chest, so of course that plays a role in it, but it is possible for each and every person on different levels. Why wait to feel confident in yourself? Yes, top surgery can give you a type of euphoria that fitness may or may not be able to do. However, if you could make your dysphoria just a little bit easier, why wouldn't you? If you could make your top surgery results just a little bit better, why wouldn't you? Again, it's these reframes. Now we have, I can't even look at myself in the mirror. Why would I be able to go into a gym full of mirrors and people judging me? Honestly, as a queer person, perception can be our worst nightmare. I get it. I've been there. A funny story, actually, and I'm interested to hear if you guys have any stories in regards to this. When I started my fitness journey, when I was like, all right, I'm feeling good, confident with the home workouts, I was like, I'm going to go to the gym. I remember walking in, looking around, and being mortified. There was just a bunch of tall, jacked cis men that were like benching, 3 plates on bench press, throwing the free weights around, and I was terrified. I remember walking over the treadmill, walking for 10 minutes, attempting to go do the workout split I found scrolling on TikTok, and just turned around and walked right out the door. That was my first gym experience. So saying that and knowing I'm here now, promise you it is possible. Gym anxiety is a real thing, though. I will say that. It is real for everybody. Individuals, queer, trans, cis, het, you name it. Gym anxiety is not just for queer people. But when we add on the additional factors of dysphoria on top of that, of course, we can acknowledge that it's not a good combo. It is perfectly okay to start working out at home. That's exactly what I did when I started working out. This allows for a low pressure environment for you to get through the initial learning curves of your fitness. And I actually encourage this. If you do decide to start out in the gym, here are some practical tips I do have for you guys. First and foremost, this is my personal favorite, is our 10-minute warm-up. This is not just a physical warm-up, but it's a mental one as well. Walking on the treadmill, elliptical, stairs, whatever that looks like. What we do during this time is, of course, we're getting our blood flowing and we're warming up our body, which is crucial. But what people often miss out on is we can use this same time to warm up our mind and our mental. What that means is we can people watch, observe. That can really help you get, used to and acknowledge your surroundings. You can find a corner of the gym that maybe, people aren't at, and you can bring your dumbbells over there. You can turn on your favorite playlist and get yourself hyped up and throw your hoodie on. Call your favorite friend that always makes you laugh, loosens you up. Use that time wisely. Then work out, of course, during quiet hours of the gym. That is extremely helpful. And of course, dressing for comfort and minimal dysphoria. However, just know that the gym is for everybody. Oftentimes, people will actually come up to you and give you advice on form/technique, but everyone was a beginner at one point. Remember that. And hate always comes from beneath the ladder. So if you ever receive anything along those lines, keep that affirmation rolling as we go. Lastly, we have, now stay with me guys, because we are about to get to the real gold of this presentation shortly. I just did want to talk about this though. The limiting belief of, I don't even think I can stay consistent enough to see these results. This is huge. This doesn't have to do with being trans. This doesn't have to do with being queer. This has to do with doubting in yourself, a lack of confidence and trust within. This is something that I personally experienced so much. This limiting belief, like I said, is the most common one I see. This is where you must build that trust within yourself. What is the definition of confidence? It's quite literally that. Confidence is trust within yourself. Building a solid foundation to my routine was one of the most euphoric parts of my fitness journey. I'm going to say this again. Building a solid foundation to my routine was the most euphoric part of my fitness journey. Not the physical results, not the transformations I'm sharing with you, not the PRs. It's the discipline that was built. That was my most pivotal part. And that is the focus of this presentation. Yes, it might not be as flashy as workout splits and meal plans, but it's by far the most important. Building that trust within myself allowed me to become the most confident version of myself. It won't be perfect. Your best will be different on different days, different weeks, different periods of your life, even. Your fitness journey will not be a linear process. Acknowledge that. But if you commit to trying your best each and every day, the results will follow. Now, at this point, you're probably thinking, okay, yes, that makes sense, but how do I stay disciplined? I understand the importance of it, but it's easier said than done. Of course it is. So that's the topic that we're about to dive into here. Before we do that, I want to talk about finding our why. Now, we're going to get a little bit deep, a little bit personal here. So I want you guys to take out a pen and paper if you haven't already. And we're going to slow down because this is really important. Zoom out for a second and really attempt to understand why this is important to you. Why are you on this call? Why did you show up here today? Why is fitness, confidence, health, whatever your why is that important to you? There's no right or wrong answer to this question. Your why is what will keep you going when motivation diminishes. That's what builds discipline. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Fitness journeys are sustained not through motivation, but through discipline. Motivation is like this: up, down, up, down. It comes, it goes, it's unreliable. What's always there? Discipline. What pulls you into that discipline? Your why. Your why is the starting point, regardless of if you're aware of it or not. So, what I want you all to do right now is find your why. Why is building confidence important to you? Some examples could include, and I want, as I read these, if you guys are open to sharing in the chat, I would love to take a look at what you guys think your whys are. So, I have to be able to feel confident in my wedding pictures, to be able to run around outside with my daughter, niece, nephew, to be able to defend myself and my family if needed, especially right now in this political and social climate, to be able to take my shirt off on vacation this summer and not care who's giving me dirty looks, to feel confident enough to come out to my family, to prove to myself that I can do hard things. That is so, so important. That is a huge, huge aspect here. So, if anyone wants to share their why, whether you're journaling it, putting it in the chat, I'm going to give us about 10 to 15 seconds to just think on this and read through this one more time. We have some in the chat here to be able to look at my pre-top surgery, self without hating it, to prove to myself first, then others. I love that one. To be able to ride water rides with my boyfriend. I love that one. Yeah, those little things, these aren't silly, corny, cringy. They're real. They're experiences. When we pull from experience, when we pull from that emotion, it is so important. Always pull from a place of joy rather than from a place of hatred. So when we find our why, don't do it in a way of, well, I don't want to hate myself anymore. Do it from a place of, I want to love myself. Always pull from positivity. That is also another very important thing here. And I appreciate all of you sharing in the chat. I love this, guys. This is super special. So here we go. Now, get out your pen and paper if you haven't already. This is, like I said, the bulk of it. How to build confidence through fitness. Let's dive in. We'll start out with the actual concept of building discipline. Why discipline is the ultimate confidence. This is huge. So, confidence grows when you show up for yourself, when you show yourself, what you can handle step by step through consistent action. In order to maintain this consistency, you must build discipline. Discipline is a skill that can be built through practice and intention. That's very important, the intention behind it. So, we need to prove to ourselves that we are capable. Again, we're building that trust slowly but surely, brick by brick, if you will. So, start with one tiny promise you can actually keep. Stick to it daily until it feels automatic. I believe it takes roughly 3 weeks, 27 days to build an actual habit and then add the next small habit. This is something called habit stacking. We're not going all in, which is what I like to call this all or nothing mindset. Okay, I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m., go for a 5 hour run, meal prep, eat 5 meals a day, work, train twice a day. No, it's not sustainable for anybody. So keep the focus on showing up, not perfection. Again, I'm gonna rephrase that because a lot of you need to hear this, and I need to hear this honestly sometimes. Keep the focus on showing up, not perfection. The more you follow through on small commitments, the easier it becomes to take on those bigger ones that you're, hungry and ravenous for. This is how discipline starts, even when you've never practiced it before. So, again, pull out your pen and paper, share in the chat. I want us to all set the intention right here, right now, while we're all here, feeling amped up, emotional. What's that one tiny promise? Let's hear it. What's that one tiny promise? Is it, I'm going to go on a walk every day this week? I'm going to, research some more into this week and hopefully get a gym membership next month. I'm going to find a gym buddy. I'm going to meal prep my meals for work. What are some of these habits that we want to, kind of maintain? Awesome. We'll keep these going in the chat here. Make sure you're really kind of digging deep here on what is going to be the most, kind of encompassing of where you're at currently. So, with that being said, we have aligning your actions with your actual values. What this means, and this is actually so important, it means living in a way that reflects what truly matters, not what's just easiest in the moment. So, what this comes down to is identifying your values. What we're going to do here is we're going to have to revisit your why. So, again, like I said, it always roots back to your why. What we're gonna do is we're gonna, like I said, revisit your why for starting to focus on fitness and or discipline. Maybe you want to feel stronger, become healthier, build confidence, or simply be a good example for others around you. What values do you have that light a fire inside you to take action? I want us to think about that. What values do you have that light a fire inside of you to take action? Do you want to be the action taker? Do you want to be the go-getter? Do you want to be, perceived as relentless, strong? Maybe, this could be, there's so many sides to this token. Someone could want to just feel secure in themselves. There's so many different ways. There's no right or wrong answer here. Then we're going to build intentional actions based off that. So once you've got that down, now that you've identified your values, what actions can you take to embody them? That's the first half, but then where people usually fall short is this following question. What actions are you currently taking that are possibly steering you further from your goals? This assessment and this awareness is so pivotal. Pivotal. Start to assess your everyday actions and use your values as a compass to steer you towards actions that actually help you accomplish your goals. So, an example of this is, if you're the type of guy that snoozes your alarm 5, 6, 7 times a day and you work a 9 to 5 and need to wake up early to go to the gym earlier rather than at 5 during that busy period, if you have that gym anxiety, like we were just talking about, an action that would not be intentionally correlating with your values would be snoozing your alarm. And maybe, what one of these small non-negotiables that we can create is leaving our phone in, across the room with one alarm that we wake up to. That's just an example. You can interpret this many different ways. Now, when it comes down to the concept of staying consistent, there's so many misinterpretations when it comes down to this. What I will say, consistency is not perfection. That is such a common misbelief. Consistency does not mean working out 7 days a week and eating on your meal plan 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Consistency comes from and is rooted from sustainability. Staying consistent in this work is not as complicated as you may think. The word consistency used to be so daunting for me, but when I allowed to give myself some grace, it's when things became much easier. Your brain may be bouncing with limiting beliefs telling you some of the following. I'll only be able to do this a week before I fall off, or other people are more capable of building discipline than I am. If you go into building new habits with these mindsets, it will be monumentally harder to maintain them. So, why not work through and surrender these limiting beliefs now so that we can actually see progress 10 times more effectively moving into our routine? That is why this call is based on these concepts, is because these things can be tossed under the radar and you're like, why am I burning out? Why can I not stay consistent? Why is all this happening? Here is the why. So we're uncovering and unraveling this now. It's going to make your life so much easier. This is why reframing your limiting beliefs around discipline and consistency is so important. Understand that the first attempts you make at building a new habit are not going to be perfect. Do not expect perfection. A mantra I told myself throughout the start of my fitness journey, and I use in a lot of aspects of my life, is it's very simple. No expectations, just gratitude. I'm grateful for my body. I'm grateful for the movement, even if I didn't hit a PR, even if I had to work out at home. Be grateful regardless of, how it went, and try to release as many expectations and pressures because a lot of those are internal. And if you surrender those within, you'll have that weight lifted. And we want fitness to be fun. We want fitness to be enjoyable. We don't want it to be this, gut-wrenching task. We want it to be a hobby, a joy. We want it to be the outlet that I was talking about earlier in regards to my own personal story. There will be moments of inconsistency within becoming consistent. It's inevitable. Even within those ups and downs, consistency means never stopping, even if you need to take a pause. Taking a pause does not mean stopping. The most productive mindset to build while working towards consistency is to embrace the process fully, surrender to it. The good, the bad, the ugly, not just what's perfect. What I will say is how you handle the bad, the ugly, the imperfect days, the harder months. That's what actually builds that trust within yourself. It's, of course, if you have a perfect day, everything is, aligned, and it was, wasn't a busy day, you had all the time in the world, you'll feel good when you're able to stay consistent, and that'll, be great. But then what if you were able to do that same thing, on a day that maybe wasn't like that, where, the routine was off flow, something happened, you're feeling dysphoric, whatever that looks like. What if you were still able to show up for yourself 60% instead of zero? I promise you that 60% will be so much more rewarding than a perfect day that you were able to give 100. Now we're going to talk about a results-based mindset versus a process-based mindset. So, why being fixated on results is actually not the direction that we want to go here. So, what is a results-based mindset? This is something that we want to try to avoid. So, what this means is a results-based mindset is when you focus only on the end goal and measurable success by whether you achieve it. So, for example, if somebody's goal were to see their abs or get a six pack, and they spend months in the gym progressing in other areas, they may feel frustrated, demotivated, or even consider quitting. This is because they're only looking at one final result. I remember when I started my fitness journey, I had this exact mindset. My results based mindset was I want to bulk up, I want to build muscle, and I want to be 160 pounds. That was my result. I need to be 160 pounds. And now, as an educated fitness coach, I did whatever I needed to do to put on that weight. I would, eat foods that weren't necessarily clean. I would put on excess water weight. I would overtrain and not focus on my recovery. I would do things that weren't necessarily aligned with the intentions and values that we just discussed. So trust me, I've been there. It's so easy, especially for trans and queer folks, to focus on these aesthetic based goals when our body seems to be the main disconnect. It's so hard to take a step back from that and be able to assess in a new light. It's so, so crucial to focus. And how I kind of like to put this is focus more on how you feel, not on how you look. That is such an important reframe. When you're working out, even instead of looking in the mirror and checking how you look and, body checking or whatever that looks like, focus on how you feel. Do you feel strong? Do you feel empowered? Are you feeling more confident? Like you're getting the hang of something, learning something new, becoming a pro, whatever that looks like. The issue is that focusing solely on results ignores the progress and habits needed to get there. And when your intention is set onto the results, it can pull your focus away from consistently doing the work. Celebrating small steps, like hitting consistent training sessions, is what actually leads to sustainable growth. This is super, super important. What's important to touch on here, and let me take a sip of water really quickly. One thing I do want to touch on here is, and we're about to get to the free resources in a second here, so everyone hang tight, but this is a really important aspect that I wanted to touch on, is goal setting in a way where we're not attached to these goals. So we have our goals. There's this light at the end of the tunnel. That could be our why, looking good at our wedding pictures, taking our shirt off at the beach, walking into the conference room with our chest out, whatever that looks like. We have those goals, but in a way, detaching from them in these moments and falling in love with the process. This is the best thing you could possibly do. And when we set goals, it's also important to set shorter term goals because that far fetched goal, that far fetched why, oftentimes it can feel like you're drowning trying to reach the surface of that end all be all goal. So when we set these little goals, it allows us to kind of take steps to that right direction, and it allows us to feel like we're making progress because we are. Oftentimes, if you're halfway to your goal, your end goal, it's the same thing as like glass half empty, glass half full. You're like, oh my God, I'm so far away. Look back. Look how far you've come. That's the significance of setting those shorter term goals as well. Now we'll talk about the process-based mindset. So this is the shift I want you guys to make. Go from a results-based mindset to a process-based mindset. A process-based mindset focuses on the actions and habits that lead to your goals instead of obsessing over the end result. The key word is obsessing. We can be hungry for it and want it and be driven, but we don't want to obsess over it. We don't want it to eat away at our experience and make it not be enjoyable. Again, we always want this to be enjoyable. Instead of fixating on one result, you concentrate on showing up for every workout, gradually increasing your weight, maintaining proper form, and recovering well. You notice all these things just listed were things I was not doing when I shared my story in regards to my results based mindset for my first bulk. Success is measured by consistency and effort, not just the number on the bar or scale. I'm going to take a second there because if I heard that when I started my fitness journey, that would have saved me so much mental turmoil. I was always fixated on the scale, the progress pictures, other people on social media, comparing myself to others. And if any of you are, kind of going through those thought patterns right now, again, success is measured by consistency and effort. Over time, these small repeated actions naturally lead to the result you want. And you stay motivated because you're in control of what you do each and every day rather than waiting for an outcome that might feel far away. So focus on what you have control over. You have control over the here and now. That end all goal, it might look completely different than what you were expecting, but you have control over the actionable steps that you can do each and every day. Make that your focus, make that your tunnel vision, not the result, but the process every single day. Now, I kind of wanted to touch base on self compassion, roped in and mixed in with accountability. That's your key to success. Being unkind to yourself will not help you build discipline. Self compassion and accountability go hand in hand. These are one and the same. When you hold yourself accountable, you commit to showing up and doing the work, even when it's hard. That is loving yourself right there. Self compassion ensures that when you slip or struggle, you respond with understanding instead of shame. You learn from it and you keep moving forward. This approach ensures that setbacks don't derail you, and each small win builds confidence and momentum towards your goals. Momentum comes from forward motion, even if it's imperfect. And that is so, so important to note here. So, with all that being said, the biggest thing that I really wanted to pull here in regards to all of this is something that I talk about with a bunch of my clients actually when we're talking about shame, learning from it, and moving forward is actually how you speak to yourself. So, are you your biggest critic or your biggest cheerleader? Because when we're talking about all these mindset things, the biggest thing is checking the way that you speak to yourself because we put all this pressure, we put all this, for lack of a better word, we put all this pressure on ourselves to succeed in a certain way, perform a certain way, look a certain way, be a certain way. When we realize that we're actually in control of how we talk to ourselves, and we are can zoom out from the voice inside of our head, it is so, so important. So with that being said, make an effort to be your biggest cheerleader. Boost yourself up. Don't tear yourself down. Shame kills momentum because it shifts your focus from action to judgment. When you feel ashamed, your energy goes towards criticizing yourself instead of solving the problem or taking the next step. It makes mistakes feel like personal failures instead of learning opportunities, which leads to avoidance, procrastination, or giving up altogether. Awesome, guys. So now that you have all this information, you may be feeling excited, hopeful, and ready to tackle this, or you could be feeling overwhelmed, hopeless, or like it's not possible for you. There's no right or wrong way to feel right now, but I did want to leave you with one last and final kind of word of encouragement before we dive into these tangible resources. What I want you to know is that this is possible for you. Confidence, health, euphoria, joy, whatever your why is, you can have it all. Trans people deserve success, can have success, and it is a beautiful thing to see that. And I want that for each and every one of you. I've made that literally my life's goal. Whatever you are chasing at this point in your life, the only thing that is stopping you for reaching for it is you. And sometimes that can be a tough pill to swallow. All you need to do is build that trust in yourself through what was outlined today. It's a journey. It's one hell of a long one, I will add. But when you are in the thick of it and falling in love with that process, it feels so good. The only way to do that is to start. It's to try. You will fail. Plan for that, in fact. It's how you react to those failures that allow you to build that trust. No matter what step you are in your transition or journey, you are just as capable. Assess your limiting beliefs, work through them, and let go of any mental blocks standing in your way. Fitness is a form of gender affirming care, not, it is a form of gender affirming care because, yes, you can prep yourself for top surgery, build muscle pre T, build certain characteristics to feminize or masculinize yourself depending your identity. Yes. And I'm sure all of you guys have seen videos, maybe for myself or other individuals like that. But this is something I have personally never talked about, and I don't see a lot of people talking about. Fitness as a form of gender affirming care in regards to building trust and confidence within yourself through discipline. With that being said, this is something that I am so passionate about, so personal to me and my team, and is something that I really hope all of you can leverage from, regardless of the physical side of things. So, now we have the free resources that I was mentioning here. We have 2 video trainings and 3 PDF guides. As I kind of talk through what these look like, we are going to do a Q&A. So any questions you guys have, it can be about the presentation, it can be about fitness in general. We can answer it all. Drop your questions in the chat. What I'm going to do as these questions start rolling in is tell you guys kind of how to leverage these free resources. So there's our website right there is up here, and we can have someone put it in the chat for you guys as well. And we also have a QR code. You can scan this if you're on a computer, or take a screenshot of what you're seeing right now, and then you can hold the QR code and it will take you to the landing page. What is going to happen is you're going to be presented with 2 options, one for our one-on-one coaching and one for our free resources. I encourage you all to just go for the free resources. This is very easy, completely free. What it's going to do is it's going to email you 2 video trainings, a 60-minute free training on how to build a masculine physique, and then a 45-minute training on the actual, methods that I use to do so, and then 3 PDF guides, a nutrition 101 guide. This has meal plans. This has, a custom calorie tracker for you guys, and a bunch of other, things in terms of supplementation and all that as well. And then it also has a masculine physique for dummies PDF workout program, so to speak. This has example workout splits, everything you need to know in terms of technique, form, execution, all that good stuff. And then last and finally, a 35-page guide on how to build confidence in your queer identity, which is kind of like a summary of both those 2 guides that is more of an updated version of this. So if you put your email in that free bundle guide application thing, all of that will be sent to your email inbox. Make sure you check your spam when you do receive that. And you guys can always message me if you have any questions on that as well. So that is all I had for you guys today. We can then go ahead and see if we have any questions. Let me open up the chat here and get these going. Awesome. I'm going to scroll up. Someone asked, what are some good workouts for making breasts look smaller? So this is actually a question that we get a lot. And I will say it's not a simple answer. So what this means is breast tissue is made up of body fat. AFAB individuals, some people store more fat in their breast tissue than other individuals. Of course, some of this is genetic. However, although some of this is genetic, when you lose fat all over your body, you will then lose fat in your chest. I will say you cannot spot reduce fat. There is no workout, there is no meal plan, there is no keto, nothing anybody tells you. I will debunk this limiting belief right now. There is no way to simply spot reduce fat on your chest. So with that being said, what you can do is you can do an overall caloric deficit. I suggest if you're over the age of 18 looking into calories and macros. I don't like, younger individuals diving into that. I'm not sure the age of the person asking this. And if you're uncomfortable with tracking food meticulously, there are many other options for you as well. Whole food and high protein diets can be really, really awesome tools as well. I'm using like hand portioning. A lot of that will be in the Nutrition 101 free resource for you as well. And that is my best advice. And then in regards to doing that, if you're able to, expend more energy than you consume, calories in, calories out, that is how, body fat works. Then on top of that, so you will start losing fat all around your body, chest included. Then you can also train your chest through, 2 to 3 times a week, anywhere from 9 to 15 sets a week. And that will also build up muscle in that area as well for that more euphoric look. Let's see if we have any. I hope that answered your question. Let's see if we have here. What is the benefit of signing up for coaching through Masculinity Made versus using freebies and doing your own research? Completely up to you, man. There is, this is not about, coaching or anything along those lines. Like I said, I suggest just going with the free resources, honestly, and doing your own research. That's a great starting point, and you can see killer results from that. And then we also have, let's see here. What progress are you looking to see in regards to chest if you still have a chest? I'm not sure if that's, if you wouldn't mind reframing that question for me as well, just because I'm having trouble interpreting what exactly you mean by that. We have one in the chat here. I find it very hard for me to gain weight, and I tried checking in the hospital if there's anything wrong, but everything is good. How can I gain weight? So, struggles gaining weight can come down to a few things. I think this is a really, really important question. So, first thing is eating patterns. What you want to do is if you're the type of individual who's really, really busy, constantly on the go, and you have like, one or two big meals throughout the day, I would recommend splitting up your eating, having like, I'd say anywhere between 4 to 6 meals a day. Breaking that out is going to be very, very beneficial. Drinking your calories, if you're really, really struggling, can also be a lifesaver. Like there's a lot of really good bulking smoothies. One of those is in that free nutrition resource for you. Drinking your calories is very important. If you struggle, it depends on what your struggles are. If you have no appetite, just don't have the time, forget to eat, it depends. Let's say you just don't have the time to eat or forget to eat, or just kind of gets dusted under the rug with your day. What I do, and I think is a great suggestion, is I just set timers for every 3 hours. So what that means is every 3 hours, I will have an alarm go off to eat. And that just reminds me to eat, and I have my stuff meal prepped, and I'm good to go. So that would be my best advice there. I also would suggest doing higher calorie swap outs for some foods. So pasta instead of rice, a higher fat percentage ground beef instead of a lower fat percentage ground beef. Things along those lines are very, very beneficial. Little swaps like that can go a long way. We have one in the chat here. How much water should you try drinking a day? It depends on your body weight, but I do aim, I think like a good rule of thumb is like a gallon of water a day. Also supplementing with electrolytes for hydration can be really, really a beneficial tool for those that struggle to drink water as well. That's actually what I'm drinking right now here. Let's see what I have in the chat here. We have What's your advice for someone getting back into lifting after top surgery? First and foremost, I will say I am not a doctor, so definitely consult your doctor on when to do that. I will say though, start very, very slow. Getting your body used to hypertrophy training, used to having glycogen back in your muscles is super important. So starting out with anywhere between 5 to 10 pounds just to go through the motions and get your body used to things is very, very good. And also mobility. I think mobility should be the first few weeks of just like stretching and moving through that as well has been really, really huge. But again, I'm 7 days post top surgery, so I don't have the best advice from personal experience. This is just from my knowledge as well. But it depends for everyone. I would recommend consulting your doctor and just making sure you're easing your way back into it, really focusing on your recovery, slowly going into things. And I would honestly go for higher volume, lower weight as well, so you're not training as intensely. How do you deal with pre-top surgery depression? And Aiden, let me know when you want to jump back in here. I know there were a few final things you wanted to wrap up here, so I will take this last and final question here. How do you deal with pre-top surgery anxiety? Had a little bit of anxiety going into top surgery, and I think the biggest thing is I just realized how long I waited for this moment. And the same thing, no expectations, just gratitude, man. I don't expect anything to look a certain way, go a certain way. I am so at peace that I finally get to have this experience. And I just felt like I really did embrace that mantra going into things. And I became at peace with it when I released the expectations that I had going into it. In terms of medical anxiety, that's something that I had as well. But I hope that your nurses are kind to you, and I hope that goes well for you. Awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate all of you for tuning in and for, hearing what we have to say here. This was an absolutely awesome time, awesome chat. If you guys have any more questions, feel free to message me on Instagram. My Instagram is gray_vac. I'll pop it in the chat for you guys. I will be responding to any messages after the call today to get the rest of you guys all squared away. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Big thank you to Grayson for sharing your story and insight, and everyone here for showing up and engaging so thoughtfully. Yeah, if you have any questions, you should definitely reach out. I learned more about you, which was really nice as well. But seriously, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being part of this. Just so everybody knows, I just dropped some more links in the chat. Remember, if you are looking for your own top surgery, possibly, or any other gender affirming care, we at Point of Pride cover the financial aid for those with those with barriers to accessing care. So we have our surgery fund open right now. So you should go check it out, share it with your friends as well that might need it. All in all, this is recorded, so we will be posting this to our YouTube channel very shortly, as early as tomorrow. If I can get my act together, I will be posting this to the YouTube. So you can definitely check it out there. Just follow us at Point of Pride ORG on YouTube. All in all, happy Trans Awareness Week, Grayson. Really appreciate you. Ali and KM, thank you so much for the interpretation provided this evening. And as said, if anyone needs anything, you can always reach out to me. I'm dropping, someone asked if they could drop it again. I'm just copying and pasting all of the links for the survey, for our annual surgery fund. If you'd like to make a donation to Point of Pride for our end of year giving campaign, following us on YouTube as well. So, yeah, thanks everybody. We really appreciate you. Grayson, Jack in the background also. Thanks everybody. And I hope you all have a great rest of your Trans Awareness Week, ending tomorrow with ending tomorrow with Trans Day of Remembrance. Thanks, everyone.